So everyone, good afternoon. Thank you for finding time in your busy day to be able to attend our webinar. So our agenda today is we're going to start with some quick introductions of the customer success team. We're going to talk about some brief housekeeping items as we to manage our webinar today. We're going to start with an overview of some slides talking about the various screens that are used within managing mix percent. Stuart is going to give us a live demo of managing mix percent and some of the screens and how those are utilized. And then we've got time saved at the end for a Q&A answer session. So the team today, myself, Janine, Stuart, and Megan, we will be presenting the customer success team, and then customer success all reports in today to Todd Lindeman, VP of Customer Satisfaction. So a few housekeeping items. So we will be recording this session and making it available to everyone. Any questions that you may have during the session, at the bottom of your screen, there you will find a Q&A icon that you can select and raise a question during the session. We're going to have everybody muted on the webinar to reduce any background noise so we don't have any feedback issues. And then we're also going to have a Q&A period at the end. We've scheduled about 10 to 15 minutes for that. So if you ask a question during the session, we may stop and answer it. We may answer it via the session itself, or we may hold it for the end of the, until the end of the session. So all recordings of the webinars that we've conducted thus far, you can find on the Softvision support site. All you need to do is search on Softvision Suite Educational Webinars, and they can all be found and located there. So, okay, Stuart, so color and size are referred to as descriptors when data is interfaced over into Softvision Suite. There are a couple of items that we use when setting up. There's some parameters we're going to talk about. Those were mostly all set when your client, when you onboarded. We'll talk about some scripts that are used to manage color and size. I'm going to be going through the color size table as far as setup information and order, assigning sort order, utilizing color size templates, and talking a little bit about auto projections within the marketing offer setup as it relates to when and how colors are projected and setting your auto percentages. So getting started, parameters. There are four main parameters that are used in conjunction with data that is interfaced over to us. So color and size within interfaces are referred to as D1, D2, and D3. And our first descriptor basically tells us, is that descriptor being used for color or is it size information? So that is how we define that interface. The second set of interfaces tells us what order you want to see this information on when you're on the mix percent screen. So do you want to see information presented as color, size, size, which is probably the most common. We also see it though as size, color, size, or you can change it up to be size, size, color. So that can be unique by client based on that interface. Our third parameter basically defines the sort order that you're going to see colors and sizes and how they'll appear on your dashboard screens, and also how they're going to appear on requisitions and transfers. And that parameter is used in conjunction with the color and size setup screen. And our fourth parameter is basically used for those clients that set up placeholder items before they're set up in their host system, or for those clients that actually set up product codes within Softvision Suite and interface them back to their host. We have a parameter that allows us, when creating those product codes within the wizard and new product setup, to make sure that we don't duplicate any colors or sizes that have already been set up within the system. So next are two scripts that are utilized when managing colors and sizes. The first is the CX, it's called Build CS Matrix, that you see on your dashboard. This is typically run daily, and it runs after the OT is completed, and preferably after master scheduling is completed, so we don't have any resource issues with the server itself. Our second script is the build CS compare, and that is the script that we use to populate information on the comparable search screen. So when you go in from your history matrix screen within color and size, it allows you to be able to pick comparable items, and there's 3 different parameters that drive that. So the first screen we're going to talk about is on the admin module, and it's the color and size tables that are set up. And so when you come in, you have the option to look at colors or sizes. You select a box to choose those. And then you have to enter a code. It's the code that you're going to use in your interfaces and descriptors to define color, or the code you're going to use to define size. And the next field on this screen is order. And this is where, in conjunction with your parameter setting, you have the option to go in and set the order that you want colors and sizes to appear on screens and on your requisitions. So a common example is small, medium, and large. We will typically, our default method will be to sort by code, alphanumerically. So small, medium, and large would not fall within that order. So you can set your order so that small will fall before medium, which will fall before large. You also want to make sure, if you're using feature color, that you assign a description so that when you are in maps or the PLF screen and you go to pick that feature color, you have that description that's available. The next screen that we use off of the admin module is color size templates. So again, for clients that are setting up placeholder items or that are setting up product codes within our dashboard, the templates allow us to reduce the number of clicks and make for a much faster setup of the product code. So you can go in and create a template that says, what are the spring colors that you're going to be offering that year, or summer colors? What are the sizes that you typically offer within certain categories of product? So then when you are on your placeholder, you can pick that template and it automatically adds all of those colors or sizes in one quick click. So just a great time savings. The next screen is actually the when you add a new product or SKU out of the Maps module, this is the screen that you see for setting up new product codes. So you quickly would fill in a header, and then you have the option to pick the template that you are using for color and size. And then down below in the lower left portion of the screen is where you will see the color and sizes that you have picked individually or through those templates. So feature color is a option that is used by many clients. So when you take and display a photograph, whether it be on the internet or within your catalogs, the color that is presented for that product you can set up as a feature color. And it's a drop-down box that appears on the screen, then you select that color that's available. The benefit to the client in doing this is when you are looking at your color size matrix screen, or you're looking at your history matrix, you see in a light lavender what that featured color is. So when you go to pick history to select for that particular offer as you're setting your color size mix, you can find offers that have similar featured colors, since we see that typically the feature color may have a greater selling percentage than it would if it weren't featured. And lastly, in the setup process, on the marketing setup screen, you define what your projection start date or start percentage is going to be at the product and SKU level. So in this instance, we've got 10% at the product and 40% at SKU. And then you also say, when do you want your auto projections to begin, that we're going to automatically send that sales percentage to materials planning. But notice in this example that we have the auto projection percentage set less than when SKU mix is. So in this particular instance, we may start sending the product forecast projection to master scheduling immediately, but because you may have situations where products may have a high number of colors and sizes, there's a possibility in the early stages of a book where certain colors and sizes might get 0% or very low percentages in comparison to what you initially set up. So this allows you to adjust that percentage to avoid that situation. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Janine, who's going to talk a little bit more about the screens and we're used when we actually set up and enter our mix percents.
Great, thanks, Linda. All right, so why are we talking about mix percent? So the importance of making sure you are forecasting at your color and size is that you're getting yourself to a smarter forecast. So I'm going to give you a glimpse of some of the screens and tabs and options that we've got as far as the matrices are concerned, the different tabs in the mix percent screen, the several ways that you can look and compile it history to determine a basis for your mix percent. I'm also then going to show you the display SKU screen and our SKU allocation templates. The most common screen that our clients use to access the mix percent is typically the product level forecasting screen, though you can access the mix percent from maps as well as several others. It's a link to get to. So the initial screen that pops up shows you your color size runs and the offers that are available to forecast. Here's an example. We've got multiple divisions that have different color size runs potentially. A shortcut when you come into this screen to expand all of the offers that exist under the different size color options is to click that little asterisk, and it will explode the offers down for you so you don't have to go in there and keep expanding them. So you select the color size matrix that you want and the offer that you're going to forecast, and it opens to our default tab, which is the most common that all of our clients use, the D1, D2, D3 tab. In this screen, it shows you up to the 3 descriptors that you can have. And in our layout here, we have descriptor 1 as a color, descriptor 2 and 3 as sizes. On this screen, it will show you the colors and sizes for the offer that you originally selected for forecasting. Here's an example of where we have the feature color khaki is highlighted in the lavender color. You'll see the current mix percent, which is currently how it is forecasted and or performing depending on the timing of when you're coming into the screen. And if there's history down at the bottom of each descriptor section, there'll be show descriptor history. So when you can opt to manually key in a new mix percent for this particular offer, or what most of our users will do is click on the show descriptor tab for each of the different descriptors to look at the history. All right, so here is an example of the history matrix. When you first come into this screen, every offer is going to be pre-selected for you. So at the top ribbon, we give you the options to deselect. You can invert your selection. You can select by season, select by year. So if you have a lot of history, you can go ahead and eliminate so that you have the most current year, for example. Or if you're forecasting for spring, summer, you could isolate the previous spring, summer seasons and bring it in to trim down the history that you're looking for. The other options that we give you for history is the compare options. So it'll bring in other items that compare to the same color or size, depending on which descriptor you're looking at. Others that match the same matrix, and or you have the option to search for like products. Just in case you might not feel you have enough history to look at, we do give you other options to do so. So as you're selecting and deselecting the offers, the historical percentages for each of the SKUs will adjust as you are doing that selection. Once you've chosen the matrix that you want, the mix percent, size runs that you'd like, at that point you'd simply apply them and save them to this particular offer, as well as any other offer that this color size combination is loaded to. You can load this mix percent, go forward. All right, the one option that we also give you is when you are introducing a new color into a product. So in my example here, we have green is a brand new color. This particular product had a previous green. It was called dark green, but we have now a new green coming into the product. We give you the option that you can actually description link to the dark green and take that historical value and apply it to the green. And then that way you can use the dark green's history for the new green color. This really comes in handy for where they start getting very creative with the fashion colors. So you've got slate blue, you've got teal blue, you have Mediterranean blue. This is a means to get history for these new color introductions. And once you've selected this and you like it, again, apply, save it for this offer, any other offer. And here's a result of what the screen looks like after I've linked the description. So now the green has inherited the dark green mixed percent, and the dark green is now removed from the selection. Again, just a reminder, the highlights in lavender, these are the feature colors that we've had in the past. All right, our next tab, pardon me, apologize for my allergies, is the D1, D2 times D3. So this comes in handy for products that you have the 3 descriptors for, typically are more centered around, if you have pants, for example, you will have waist, inseam, and size. For women's apparel, I've seen where you have your color sizes and you also offer Missy's, petite, and women's. Shoes, you have color, size, and width. So what this screen allows you to do is, because there is a distinction sometimes between color and size and how they sell. For example, darker colors typically sell higher in the larger sizes. Lighter colors typically sell more in the smaller sizes, as just an example. What you can do here is you can tweak those ratios so that it best conforms to that type of selling. So I can copy down my descriptors 1, 2, and 3 history to create this template. At any point in time with any of our tabs, when it's a white cell, you still have the option to edit it. All right. Now, the remaining tab that's in the mixed percent screen is called the All SKUs tab. I opted to not show that one, but rather go into the display SKUs, because this screen is now available in product level forecasting as well as it is in maps. So the beauty of this particular screen is not only can you see your product mix on here, but you do see your unit and revenue forecasts. You have your prices, your list prices if you use unique pricing per offer. You also have the descriptors that you can group by. So you can group by color to see how the colors are rolling up. You can group by size to see how they're rolling up. And you always have the option to edit these. The other unique function with this particular screen is you can select or deselect SKUs and add them to offers without having to go through the product wizard. So it is a time saver for you as well. So this is a very functional screen. All right, next, the SKU allocation templates. So the SKU allocation templates give you a shortcut to create size runs for products. This particular screen, we start out on the left-hand side. It will show your company hierarchy that you have. The items that are bolded are an indication to me that there are templates that already exist and possibly assigned to products. But the idea behind this screen is, if you take the time to build the library, it's a time saver to be able to apply a statistically sound mixed percent to new products coming in to your application. So when I select on a category, subcategory, on the right-hand side, we'll then list all of the possible size runs that exist in that particular subcategory. And then as I highlight any one of these, it will then illustrate the products down at the bottom and what their mix percent was. You have the option to sort highest to lowest. It allows you to select and deselect as many products as you want to create that template. Similar to the mix percent history matrix, as you change the products that you include, that history percent will change as you make those adjustments. Again, you can apply that history to become the template, or you can manually override it to whatever you want to do. The other option that we give you here is you can create a size template at a vendor level. So if you have a particular vendor that you know tends to run, their sizes tend to run a bit smaller or a bit larger than maybe your normal size runs, you can create a size template that's specific to the vendor. Once we've created them, up at the top, you'll see that, yes, I've got templates created for various size runs here. And then if I do end up assigning them, you'll see where they're assigned here on this. So once these templates are created in your mix percent screen that you launch from product level forecasting, if there's a template that is available over the size descriptors, you will see a drop down that will allow you to select that template, and it'll apply the size scale for that particular descriptor for you. We also have another screen that allows you to auto-assign these templates to groups of products. Like I said, once you've got these templates set up in your system. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Stuart for the live demonstration.
Oh, thanks, Janine. I'm going to connect to a sample dashboard. First, go through some of the administration, the color size setup, and then we'll go into product level forecast and look at some of the mix percent examples. So administration, if I click on color size, I could see all my colors here in this tab set up. I could sort. If you're using feature color, you would have to populate this table. If you wanted to add a color, you could do this. Just put in the description and hit enter, and it'll add to it. There's a sort order you could use, but usually for most companies, they're sorting by alphanumeric in color. In size, it's a little different. In size, you want to sort by your small, medium, large, extra large. So that way, you, within master scheduling, within materials planning, and also in requisitions, you would have these in order. So you see here, extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large. That's how it'll sort in master scheduling. The other table we have is this color size template. So this is a shortcut that you could create for adding these SKUs to placeholder products. So you see here, if I click domestics, I have these colors here. I have primary colors. If I want, I could always add a color to it. Not that corals are primary, but you could go in there and start adding these in color or size. And if you want to create a new template, you could add new, maybe call this pastel or something like that. Okay? And then you could start adding, once you save this, you could start adding these colors. So where this comes into play is if you're in maps. So here I'm in a particular offer in maps. I go to product options, add placeholder items. So placeholders are what's used to add to the assortment within Softvision before they're created in the host system. So when you're coming here, there are required fields. Since I came from this category and subcategory, it automatically fills it in. I just need to put a description here. Okay, and then down here, if you were adding, you'd have to click add and find the individual descriptor. But if you set up the templates, you could come in here and it'll automatically fill that in. So it's a big time saver to create these templates, especially if you're going to be creating a lot of placeholder items. So then I could click build all, and then it'll build all of the SKUs. And then I just have to enter cost. So that's what that template is set up for, basically as a time saver. Let me go to product level forecast. And we'll go through some different examples in here for mix percent. Here's a polo shirt. You could see that you're able to add this feature color to the grid. If I click here, I could specify one of these feature colors. You could also see for this particular product, there's a number of different offers here. We have actual sales. Some of these are on auto publish. Some are projected. And then some of these are just future forecast. So the one I want to focus on is this one. Here's a offer where we've sold 289 units. We're about 19% done. So the question is, can we use that mix percent? Like Linda showed before in the offer setup screen, we, especially for this offer, we set this up that it doesn't auto project until 40%. So the question is this enough? So let's go into mix percent. And when you click mix percent, you see all the different matrices. I'm actually filtering PLF only for this particular division, but normally you would see more divisions. Just wanted to cut down what I'm showing here. So here's all the different matrices that are set up. If I click here, I'm going to select this August B offer and hit OK. So here's my D1, D2, D3. It's color, size, and size. Here is my colors and my current mix percent, and the khaki is highlighted. And then here's my sizes. Okay, so that's my current percent. So I could go in and manually change this, but what most of our customers do is they go into history. So I'm going to show descriptor history. By default, all of these are checked. So all of your history is checked. You could sort this by any of these columns. And you could also see the feature color. Okay, so depending on the offer, there was a different feature color that was offered here. Also, the ability up here to select all, deselect all. If I want, I could select by year. And then that just adds the checkboxes, basically. Okay, and as you're adding the checkboxes, that's going to add to this historic percentage. So as I uncheck this, you see how that percentage is changing. Okay, so here you're looking at your historic percentage against your current percentage. Now, because this does have a feature color of khaki, I really only want to look at those offers. Here's my offer that we were looking at that's 20% done. So here's the historic sales on that. It's kind of close to what we put, but it looks like white is selling a little bit faster and khaki maybe not as much. So again, you would have to decide how your items sell, how many SKUs there are, how quickly you get an accurate forecast, anything else that might be going on with this. But I'm not going to select all history because it looks like the feature color does make a difference. So if I want, I could select another offer that has that same feature color. Okay? So now I could go to apply, and then I'm applying that. At the same time, before you do your save, I could go to show descriptor 2 history. Now here, there's no feature color. I don't think any of these sizes is going to make a difference. I could just apply. All right? If I think this is good, I could recalc. I could also say, you know what? This I originally thought was 24%. It's only 19. Maybe I'll make it 22 and put in 0.22. When I do that, my total is a little bit over here. So I got to stay at 100%. So I could click normalize. So now it normalizes that, you see. So if I think that this is good, then I would recalc. Okay, and now I recalced, and now that's my current mix percent, and then I would go save. Now when you save, the default is to check the offer that you're in, but you could save the same mix percent to any future offer you want. Now again, in this case, because of the feature color, we might not want to do that, but this is where you only need to save the mix percent for one offer, and you can now apply it to all these future offers. That doesn't work that way in maps. In maps, you're working within one particular offer and could only save to that one offer. In PLF, you could save to multiple. But I might want to limit it, especially here because of feature colors, so I could select by feature color. So if I say select khaki, it's going to go in and check the khaki. I could have just gone manually and done that, but it's a good time saver there. So now I could save. So now it's saving this mix percent. And this screen comes up. This is only because we have venture also in this sample dashboard. You won't see that basically. Do we have any questions? I'm going to go through a few more examples, but do we have any questions at this point? Okay. Let me keep going. One other thing you could do is this is your active offers, right? And these are your history. If I wanted to see a quick look at the mix percent here, I could right click and go to mix percent. And I will see the actual mix percent, the actual sales history. And you see here it says this is a history item, no changes can be saved, which is true. But basically, if you wanted a quick look, I wanted to see what this particular offer was doing, you'd still see it in the descriptor history, but this is good if you were looking here for a comparable offer and said, what was the mix percent of these offers? So you could right click and then go in there. Display SKUs. If I right click and I go to display SKUs, I could see all the SKUs in this offer. I could see the ones that are in that offer. I could check and add more SKUs to this offer or take out. I would see the units, revenue, unit and list price, and the product mix percent by SKU here. There's other information like user fields, margin, and everything else. And what's nice here is you could drag this up here and then see your rolled up mix percent by color. So here's my product mix by color. And you could even bring descriptor 2 up here if you wanted to do that. And now I have color and size. There's my color, and there's my size within color, which is nice if you wanted to have a look at that. One other thing is we talked about a new color and the descriptor link. So here you could see there's this new green color. If I go to show descriptor 1 history, okay, it's showing me here's the history, but there's another color here. And by the way, there's a setting here where you could filter the matrix group. And I'm sure some of you have seen that. Filter matrix group said, only show me the colors in this particular offer, right? So you may have these 5 colors, but you may have offered in the past many different colors, okay? So if you did filter that, you may get something like this. No data resulted. And the reason is because we have this new green color that's here. So in that case, I'm not going to filter. But I do have this dark green history here. And I could just copy down that percent to see. But the other thing you could do is you could go into descriptor link. So here it'll show you the descriptors that are in the offer and those that aren't. And you can map it. So I can now map this to the green, hit save, exit. I should have just gone back to the matrix. And now you see how the green now linked from the dark green. And then I could apply, and then I have this mix percent that I could use. All right, I'm going to go on to the 3 levels where we have 3 descriptors and bring in a sample product. So this is a long sleeve work shirt. If I go in and I select this offer, I could see my 3 descriptors. So you would have color, size, and then you have this third, regular and tall. Some companies may have Missy Petite. Some may have wide widths in shoes, wide widths and regular widths. You might have in pants, you have waist, you might have color, and then inseam, for length. So you might have different combinations of these. So when we do that, we suggest to go to this tab. The reason is, if you pull history on all 3 of these, it's going to pull a blended history, and it's not going to distinguish medium from regular and tall. In other words, it'll do your medium percent, and then use this to split it. And that might not be true history-wise. So I'm going to go here, and here you could see, here's my descriptor. This screen gets a little bit hard. You have to get used to it. Once you use it, you'd understand it. But here's my descriptor. That's my current mix percent. Here's my history percent. Okay, and then here is my down descriptor. So you could see large, here's my color history, and you could see regular and tall. So regular here is 98%, tall is 1.3. But if I go to extra large, it's different. In other words, within each of these is different. This one wasn't set up correctly. But within each of these, you have this different history. Now you have the choice to select the history. If you don't select it, it's going to just bring in all the history. When you click this takes a few seconds to come up, so bear with me a bit. All right, so this will show you your history, and you see this match and non-match. So it's going in there and showing you which ones match. You see some of these, when we say match, they don't have all the same D1s in here. Only 60% is set up. So when you come in here, you would only want to select the ones that have 100% match. And you could go in and select a number of different offers, hit apply. And now you see we have our history here, and you would copy D1 history, copy D2 history, and copy D3 history. And so that copies the history here, down here in each of these tabs. So if you do have those 3 levels, we suggest you go in to this tab to do your saves. I'm not going to save, but you can save at this point, similar to the other screens where we do the saves. I'm going to bring in one last item here. This is a new item. You see how we have forecasts, but we have no actual units. We had some history here, but again, there were no units. So I brought in a like product. So you see here, you could click like product and select your product. Or you could do that in the mix percent screen. Thing is, when you select a like product, you don't know if that like product has these same colors and sizes. So let's go to mix percent and go into this offer. And you see, here's my mix percent, 20%. So it's not really good. Here's these colors. Ash had the gray, orange, navy, khaki. So if I go to show descriptor history, all I really have is this, and it's only matching one of the colors, you know. Again, you could go here to search for like products. If you said not to show like products, it'll say no data resulted. But here you could see that there's really, this only matches one of these. Now, you could go to these screens, compare and matrix. If I go to compare, it's going to go in and look and see what other products have those colors and how much of a match is there. And we only have a 20% match. So this is the whole compare script that runs through, that you run weekly or monthly. This is going in and saying you only match one of these, basically. So there's really nothing here in history for, and it's sometimes hard with colors, especially if you have new colorways. What you'd have to do is actually just do some other research, look at 5 other colors, because there's really nothing here that we could use. But for sizes, it's a lot easier. If I go to show descriptor history for size, here's my like product. So you could see I have a large number of units here that I could use. If I go to this compare, I see that a lot of this has 100% compare. I could go in, I could check these, and then I could apply. And then I'll get even more history here. That's the compare. The matrix is good. The matrix, what it'll do is it'll look through your system to try to find the same SKUs, the same matrix, basically. It'll start at the company category, subcategory. If you had no results there, you could click here to expand it, or through the company. But here also, you could go in here and you could start selecting some of these. If you wanted to get more exact and find one that's for that vendor as well, you could do that, but unfortunately, I don't have anything there. So I would go in and just select that. Okay, so the difference, matrix is really good when you need to find something, and compare is good when you wanted to see what sort of percent you have. It's a little tougher with colors, but I'm not even going to apply this because there's something else we could do, and that's the SKU allocation templates. So if you have a drop down here and something set up, I could select this template, and it's going to give me this new percent. This is only for sizes we have it set up. CE means that it was set up and saved in category C, subcategory CE at the base level, not at a vendor level. Okay, and you could get the SKU allocation templates from, I don't know what I did there. Hold on a minute. You could get to the allocation templates from either the dashboard or here, template maintenance. So here you see I had my template set up for this category and subcategory. If it's bold, it means that it was created. And you see here, here's my combination, and here's all of the products. So remember when we went to compare or we went to matrix, we found these products. Instead of doing that, go in there and let this history be built and then save it. Okay? And again, you could sort this. You could go in and check or uncheck some of these. It'll change the history. You could change the history weeks. You could only go up to 52, but maybe you want to get more recent and put in 26. It's not that much change here in our system. But basically, these are the number of products. It was created, and it's not assigned, basically. So we could assign this to a product here. Okay. Now, if I go, let me go to one of the others. Okay, so here you could see some at a vendor level. So what we did is we saved this mix percent and saved it specific for this vendor, which you always have the option of doing when you're going to create it. Okay, and so, you know, easily this one isn't created. I could go in here, I could create the template, I could go in and then save it for a particular vendor. This isn't good because I don't have much history. Okay, and the other thing is, you see here how it says created and assigned. So periodically, you should go in here, if you set this up, and check the history to make sure that your history equals your template. You would copy history. Well, actually, let me uncheck some of these just to show you how that would be. So if, let's say that was the history that was updated, you could copy history and save. Are you sure you want to save changes to the template? Yes. There are products using this allocation. Do you want to update them? So you have the choice to say yes or no. I would say yes, because I'm going in there, I'm updating from history, and I want to update those allocation percents. So it's good. You could create these category, subcategory, get these set up, and then when you're here, you know, you're able to assign those. Okay, so here I could go, I could do a recalc and save, and then use this mix percent. The other thing that we have is in forecasting, here's a SKU allocation templates. We also have suggested templates. So what this will do is it'll go in and take a look. You can filter this by category, subcategory, and it'll go in there and find your unallocated SKUs. So this is telling me that I have unallocated SKUs for all of these products. It's going to suggest a template, and you could see if we saved it at the vendor level, it'll suggest that for Carhartt for the same vendor. Okay, it won't do it for some of these others, but you could go in there and click these, and then you could go to assign, and it'll assign those templates. You also have the choice to change if you have a drop down. So this was a vendor, maybe I don't want to use this one, and as you highlight this, it'll show you the mix percent of each one that's saved. So you could go in there and you could assign those or not assign those. Okay, and with that, I'm going to go back to the presentation.
Stuart, we did have 2 questions come through
Okay.
that we can ask here. So the first one is, how do I get rid of old color size runs?
That's something you would have. Well, you could definitely filter it out as we saw in the thing by checking and unchecking, but you would have to talk to your IT department. That's something you'd have to coordinate with Softvision to be able to delete those, because we really can't delete anything that has history. So that's something that you would have to coordinate with IT, speak to your CSC about it, and that's something that does take a little bit of work.
Okay.
So specifically, Stuart, we're talking about purging old years and versions.
Yes, basically.
Great. Okay. And then the other one, before we move on to best practices here, is what can be done to reduce the number of years or offers in that history matrix screen? I believe that's something you discussed about the filtering.
Yeah, pretty much the filtering. You can't not see it. In other words, we saw that it was there. Actually, I don't like to do this, but I'm going to do this. You'll always see that it's there as long as there's history, but you could select or deselect by year or select by season. So at least you don't have to, when this is all checked and you unchecked, you don't have to, go in there and checking. But again, unless you purge that history is going to be there. And you would use these selections to be able to limit that.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it for now. Continue to enter your Q&A in the window there, and we'll address it. I'll let you continue.
So Stuart, great job on the demo. So best practices, what we will recommend when working with clients is when we are pre-season or you're building your assortment and need to determine that initial mix, there are multiple places that you can get that initial mix to help you if you don't have information on what you want to use for that color wave. So one, you can pull mix from a comparable offer. That comparable offer can pull in history from actuals. It could pull in history using a projected offer that hasn't officially hit its or hasn't officially come to the end yet, or you can pull a working version. If you have another offer where you've taken time to update all of your mixes, you can use that working version. So when you're working within maps, you can create those comparable offers. Another option is assigning like items within PLF. So when you have brand new product codes, remember to go in and assign a like item that you believe that this product will sell like, and it will offer you different history, as Stuart showed within the history matrix information for colors and sizes. And our third option is using that comparable search on the history matrix screen. So where you can go in and try to find products that meet your comparable search criteria and parameters. Once you're in season, we also recommend that you update your mix information before you start to place reorders. So, and also before your auto projection percents are being met for those offers that are just beginning to kick off. And so typically we talk about working product variance. So going in and updating your forecast and pulling your SKU mix information off of that product variance screen. You could also go into PLS and use offer-based search or product search, and you can just next through that list of product codes, you know, before it's time to place those reorders. Another option is using for FFCT, the product level history report and dynamic reports, which gives you a lot of filter and search criteria within the dynamic report, and then you can use action items to next through that. So a great option is to try to look at information by vendor if you're needing to place a reorder for a particular vendor. We get questions many times about mix because there are multiple team members sometimes within an organization touching mix. You could have buyers who are working on the assortment. You could have forecasters. You have the schedulers who may be placing the particular orders. So tools that we can use to communicate when mix information has been done is the release indicator, and it's available in MAPS and in PLF. But basically once an offer once products have been added to an offer and someone has taken the time to forecast it and enter the SKU mix, you can mark it for release, and that will be visible in the PLF screen, and that will release the forecast information to materials planning. The init indicator could also be used at the beginning to identify after forecasting or after the assortment is done to go in and mark that the mix is done. But when you have multiple team members involved, you may want to use that release indicator first and save the init indicator for the reorder step. So again, just communication rules. Marketing planning status can sometimes be used as a tool. So it could be that you say when an offer is in planning statuses, you know, 1 through 3 as an example, it might be managed by the forecasters, and when it's in 4 through 9, it potentially is managed by the schedulers. So that's a tool to identify. You also have within PLF the red and black line to indicate information may need to be reviewed and mix updated. So if there have been SKU changes with an offer, whether new SKUs and colors have been added or there have been price changes, all could impact your SKU mix. You'll see those lines within PLF appear in red. And after you have worked your new mix or your forecast information and reviewed it, in the offer product change history screen, you can mark something as accepted, and that will change those lines back to black. So that's an indicator to identify whether something has been done. And again, you also have great reporting within DRS. You can use the VFFCT product level history report. That report has basically everything on the product level forecasting screen that you can filter and again use action items. There's also the VDRS SKU listing report, which gives a listing of all of the items that have been assigned to an offer, and on that report you can actually see the SKU allocation information. So a big piece is just determining what is the SOP that you want to use for managing your product. So does anybody have any additional questions? Okay, well, if you have questions that come up after, please reach out to any of your CSCs, or you can send an email to the customersuccess@softvision.com, our generic email address as well. Our next webinar is scheduled for July 24th. We do not have a topic pick, so if there are ideas that you may have for a particular topic, send an email as well to your CSC or the customer success on ideas that you'd like to see us talk about in a webinar. So unless anyone has more questions, I thank you for your time today and have a great rest of your day.